The highway stretched endlessly into the darkness, the glow of streetlights flickering against the black sedan as Alexis Carter drove. She had spent years navigating the highest levels of law enforcement, dealing with criminal masterminds, corrupt politicians, and power-hungry opportunists. But nothing in her career had prepared her for what was happening now. The sharp flash of red and blue lights in her rearview mirror wasn't just a routine stop, it was a warning. Her mind moved quickly, assessing her speed, 65 miles per hour, exactly the limit. No erratic driving, no violations. No reason to be pulled over. Yet here she was, gripping the wheel, watching as the police cruiser behind her didn't budge. She had been in high-pressure situations before. She had faced criminals with guns, terrorists with bombs. But this was different. This wasn't a battlefield in a foreign country. This was home. And right now, home felt just as dangerous. Her pulse steady, she signaled to the right and pulled onto the shoulder, her years of experience reminding her to stay calm, stay in control, and above all, stay alive. The seconds ticked by. The officer didn't approach immediately. That was her second warning. Too much time. Too much hesitation. Something was off. She adjusted her rearview mirror, trying to get a glimpse of him. Officer Daniel Reese. Unfamiliar face, but familiar energy. The kind of man who saw a badge not as a responsibility, but as a weapon. Her training kicked in. Hands visible. Movements slow. Voice steady. She lowered her window as Reese approached, his flashlight cutting across her face with an almost deliberate cruelty. Too bright. Too long. "Evening, officer," she said smoothly, keeping her tone neutral. "License and registration," he barked. No explanation. No greeting. Just power flexing. Alexis stayed still for half a second. Not long enough to be seen as a challenge, but long enough to make it clear she knew exactly what he was doing. "May I ask why I'm being pulled over?" Reese didn't blink. His jaw worked the piece of gum in his mouth like he was chewing on the question itself. Then, without even pretending to give a reason, he repeated, "License. Registration." A slow exhale through her nose. So, this was how it was going to go. She moved deliberately. "I'm reaching for my purse on the passenger seat," she said clearly, announcing her actions the way officers advise civilians to do for their own safety. No response from Reese. She retrieved her wallet and held up both her driver's license and her FBI credentials. A normal officer would have stepped back. Would have reassessed the situation. But Reese wasn't a normal officer. His gaze flickered over the FBI ID. He saw it. He registered it. And then, he ignored it. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. Alexis's grip on her documents tightened. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." His hand inched closer to his firearm. This wasn't about law enforcement. This was about control. She had spent her career studying men like him, the ones who mistook authority for dominance. The ones who played by their own rules. She also knew how fast things could spiral. How quickly a single moment of defiance, no matter how justified, could turn into something fatal. Her instincts were screaming at her. This was a setup. And then, he reached for the door handle. Alexis's body reacted before her mind did. Her left hand shot out, gripping the inside handle before he could yank it open. "Sir, step back," she ordered, her voice sharp, unshaken. "You are outside of protocol." Reese didn't move. His knuckles turned white from gripping the handle. "I said step out," he ground out. She kept her tone even. "On what grounds, officer?" For the first time, he hesitated. His lips parted, like he was scrambling for a reason. But instead of answering, he did something worse. He took a step closer. The flashlight beam stayed trained on her face, making it impossible to see anything beyond his shadowed outline. "I don't have to explain myself to you," he muttered. Alexis didn't blink. "Actually, you do." His jaw clenched. He wasn't used to being challenged. And then, bang! His palm slammed against the roof of her car. The sudden violence of the sound cut through the night like a gunshot. I said, get out! Her heartbeat didn't spike. She had been through worse. Her eyes flicked to his nameplate, D. Reese. She committed it to memory. You're making a mistake, she warned. He smirked. No, the mistake was thinking you could pull rank on me. Then, his hand twitched near his gun. And another set of headlights flooded the scene. A second police cruiser pulled up behind Reese's. For a brief second, relief surged through her. Backup meant a witness. But then, she saw the second officer. Tall. Broad. No nameplate visible in the glare. Reese didn't even look back. That told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't backup. This was reinforcement. The second officer approached, glancing between them before settling his gaze on Alexis. Problem here? He asked Reese. Reese smirked. Just dealing with a non-compliant driver. The second officer took a step forward. Ma'am, step out of the vehicle. Not Director Carter. Not Miss Carter. Just, ma'am. The realization hit like a gut punch. This wasn't about her title. They didn't care who she was. Because in their eyes, she was just another problem to handle. She inhaled slowly, calculating. If she refused, they would escalate. If she complied, she was at their mercy. There was no good choice. And then, the game changed. Hey! I'm recording this! The voice cut through the tension like a blade. A man stood near the shoulder of the road, phone raised. Recording. Capturing everything. And suddenly, the officers weren't in control anymore. For the first time, Reese hesitated. His stance shifted. A flicker of calculation crossed his face. This wasn't just another traffic stop gone wrong. This was evidence. And evidence had consequences.